I thought of the premonition that had assailed me earlier. I began to fear we were too quick to let people know of our refuge. Suddenly everything seems less sure than when the rebellion ended. Ritter shook his head. If you'd kept your refuge secret, it would have made landfolk even more mistrustful and suspicious of you. Take heart, for all's not ill in this new time. The council is gone from this part of the land, and with them the soldier guards and the herders and the whole machinery of corruption. Good new laws are about to be established, and soon people will elect their own leaders. Of course there are still those who fear your kind, but many more do not, having seen clearly where your loyalties lay during the elections. Don't be impatient, for the changes have begun, and they will continue. He lapsed into silence for a moment, and then said, when the rebellion first began to be spoken of, I imagined that once the council was gone, the land would become a sort of paradise. But of course it's not that simple. It'll be many years before things are really stable, and there'll be as many steps back as forward. I don't doubt it. You could just walk away from it all, I pointed out, hearing the weariness in his voice. You could come up and live up here. No one would ever say you hadn't done enough. I would say it, Ritter said with gentle finality. Enough is not measured by what you give, but by what's needed. He reached out and took my hand in his. Something's wrong between you and Rushton, isn't it? I cursed his knack of knowing things he could not know, and opened my mouth to tell him it was not his affair. But other words burst out of me, low and raw. Rushton has changed since he was imprisoned in the cloister in Sutrium. He doesn't remember what happened, but something is broken in him. I can't look inside his mind to see if it can be mended, for he will not permit it. He doesn't want my talent, and he doesn't want me. There's nothing to be done about it. I looked down at Marrowman, who slept on oblivious. I was glad, for my grief would have irked him. Elspeth. Ritter said my name gently, and when I looked up, I saw pity in his eyes. Come, it's time you were asleep. He reached down, scooped Marrowman into his arms, and pulled me to my feet. He led me to the bedroll Zarak had laid out beneath one of the wagons, and I stretched out, feeling suddenly utterly exhausted. Ritter laid Marrowman gently beside me, and the old cat rolled close with a snore. He hadn't even woken, and I wondered if he slept or now travelled the dream trails. Sleep, Ritter commanded gently, and left me. I closed my eyes, and sleep rolled over me like a soft, heavy blanket, obliterating consciousness with a gentle but inexorable finality. I dove through the cloudy swirl of memories and dreams that clamoured at me in the upper levels of my mind, shielding myself until I was deep enough for them to fade into a deep brown silence. I continued to descend until I heard the siren song of the mind stream that runs at the deepest level of all minds, and which contains the thoughts and memories of all minds that have ever existed. The urge to join the stream and give up individual existence was as potent as ever, but I held myself until the pull of the mind stream was in exact balance with the pull to rise to consciousness. I had come deep to avoid dreaming, but even as I looked down into the shimmering beauty of the mind stream, a bubble of matter detached itself and rose towards me, shapeless and shining as air rising to the surface of water. The bubble engulfed me. I saw Cassie Dupre sitting in a before-time flyer. I couldn't tell if it was the same flying machine I had seen her in before, but she looked different, subtly older. Perhaps it was just the plain dark clothes she was wearing instead of the bright colours she usually favoured, or maybe it was the fact that her wild mass of crinkling hair was restrained in a complex coil against her neck. Seated opposite her was a very beautiful, haughty-looking older woman with the same chocolate-toned skin as Cassie. A certain likeness about the facial bones suggested they were related. Could this be her mother, I wondered? She didn't act like it, for Cassie was weeping, and the woman made no move to comfort her. "What did you expect, Cassandra?" she finally asked, her tone irritated. "He was a spy." "He might not be dead," Cassie said, in a voice thick with tears and despair. "Don't be foolish," the woman responded crisply. "Sam vanished while spying on officials in the Chinon Empire. If he's not dead, then he will wish he were soon enough."